Welcome to episode 57 of the Pulse of Physiology. I'm your host, Dr. Jim Davis, and today we're discussing minute and alveolar ventilation, two important concepts that determine how effectively we breathe. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how ventilation is measured, how anatomical dead space affects gas exchange, and why breathing depth matters more than breathing rate. So let's get started. Now, before diving into ventilation calculations, we need to understand the difference between the conducting zone and respiratory zone. The conducting zone includes the trachea and bronchi, where air is warmed, humidified, and filtered, but no gas exchange occurs. The respiratory zone includes the alveoli, where oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuse between air and blood. Now, not all air that enters the lungs reaches the alveoli for gas exchange. Anatomical dead space refers to the volume of air in the conducting zone where gas exchange does not occur. This volume remains relatively constant at about 150 mils per breath in an adult. For example, during a normal tidal volume of about 500 milliliters, only 350 milliliters reaches the alveoli, while 150 milliliters remains in the conducting airways. So ventilation can be measured in two ways. You've got minute ventilation and alveolar ventilation. Minute ventilation is the total volume of air that enters the lungs each minute. Alveolar ventilation, on the other hand, is the volume of air reaching the alveoli and undergoing gas exchange each minute. So these values are calculated using the following formulas. Minute ventilation is respiratory rate times tidal volume. So if respiratory rate equals 10 breaths per minute and tidal volume equals 500 milliliters, 10 times 500 equals 5,000 milliliters per minute, but we usually report this in liters, so that 5,000 milliliters per minute becomes 5 liters per minute. Now, under that same scenario, if dead space ventilation is 150 mils, that would mean that dead space ventilation would be 150 milliliters times 10 breaths per minute. That gives us 1,500 milliliters, or 1.5 liters. And so then we've got alveolar ventilation. So alveolar ventilation, again, using the same calculations. So this would be 500 milliliters minus 150 milliliters. That's what our dead space volume is. So that gives us a total of 450 milliliters. We multiply that by 10. That gives us 4,500 milliliters per minute, or 4.5 liters. And so hopefully you were able to see that minute ventilation also equals dead space ventilation, which is the air that does not undergo gas exchange, plus alveolar ventilation, which is the amount of air that does undergo gas exchange. So 1.5 plus 3.5 equals 5 liters. And I think I messed up with the alveolar ventilation. It would be 10 times the difference between 500 and 150. So that would give us 350, or 3.5 liters. Now, since dead space volume is constant, increasing tidal volume, so taking bigger breaths in, is more effective than increasing respiratory rate. Slow, deep breathing increases alveolar ventilation by allowing more air to reach the alveoli each breath. Rapid, shallow breathing increases dead space ventilation, leading to less efficient gas exchange. For example, if you double tidal volume from 500 milliliters to 1,000 milliliters while keeping respiratory rate at 6 breaths per minute, alveolar ventilation increases. However, if you double your respiratory rate to 24 breaths per minute, but keep tidal volume at 500 milliliters, dead space ventilation increases, which reduces overall gas exchange efficiency. So to summarize, anatomical dead space is about 150 mils per breath, meaning only a portion of each breath reaches the alveoli. It also means you need to breathe more than 150 milliliters with each breath to get air to your alveoli. Minute ventilation measures airflow, total airflow, while alveolar ventilation measures effective ventilation for gas exchange. Alveolar ventilation is always lower than minute ventilation because of dead space volume. Deep breaths improve gas exchange efficiency better than rapid, shallow breathing. So that's it for episode 57 of Pulse of Physiology. I hope this episode has helped clarify how ventilation is measured and why alveolar ventilation matters more than total ventilation. Join me next time for episode 58, where we'll be discussing how breathing is controlled by neural and chemical regulators. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious.